This episode of Adventures in Alchemy is brought to you by the Moon and Magic Planner, 13 Moons of 2020. Plan on magic for 2020. Magic just doesn't happen. You have to plan on it. And this planner has plenty of ideas and spaces for creating magic. It celebrates the moons instead of the months. It follows the cycles of nature. It has pages to share your word of the year, your intentions, an oracle reading for the year. It also has spaces for your incantations, full and new moon rituals, working with waxing and waning moon energy, planner pages to script out your best year, and weekly pages that include the oracle of the week, along with magical notes, spells, and recipes that you may be working with, or experiments, right? And also you can track all of your magical habits here because these habits really build up our own connection to magic in the world. And it's just brimming with magical energy for you to have the most magical 2020 yet. How many times did I say magical? Too many. But go to the show notes and check out the link, or just go to www.dailyalchemy.com and scroll down to about the middle of the page and you'll find a big button that'll take you right there where you can see the brand new gorgeous cover for 2020. Hey there, it is Michelle Martin Dobbins. Welcome to this episode of Adventures in Alchemy. If you're not familiar with me, I am the creator of dailyalchemy.com and the Moon and Magic Planner, and you can find out more about both going to dailyalchemy.com, and there are links to all of the places to find me in the interwebs, if that's even a thing. So today I'm going to give you another experiment to work with, but we're going to talk about why your spells don't work. And I know some of you wouldn't use the term spells, and that's totally fine. I enjoy the terminology of spells. But if you're just like thinking of manifesting experiments too. But I'm going to lean towards spells because I think it's interesting. I know when I was younger, I got a spell book and read the spell. Nothing happened. What was this? And I've noticed that my own daughters have done the same because they've got these, 1001 spells. Lots of simple spells in there. I'll have to see. Maybe I can add a link on my Amazon storefront, on my Amazon influencer account that has that book, because it has a lot of simple spells. And I'm going to ask you to pick one if you so choose to do the experiment. And to be honest, I can't even remember much about what was in that. One of my daughters does have that book. But a lot of times, if you go to a store and you find all these books of spells, and they'll tell you words to say, actions to do, and things to go through these steps. And some people will say, well, I did all that and nothing happened, right? Because it doesn't really work. I say it doesn't, but mostly it doesn't work like Harry Potter. So why would people even invest in magic and doing spells if they don't work? Well, because a lot of times they actually do work. But there's a reason why they might not. Because there's more than what's written on the paper when you look at doing spell work. So I'm going to give you the big reason why not. I'm going to lead with that. I'm going to lead with the big reason. And then I'll give you some other background things that could mess you up in spell work, in manifesting work, whether you lean towards witchcraft or law of attraction or a combo of the both, kind of like me. So first thing is, this is what I teach whenever I do the experiments in the Daily Alchemy Premium Members Lab, because there's always two parts, and I think I've done that here. There's always a physical part and a metaphysical part. And metaphysical is just a word that means beyond the physical, so it might be more a meditation or a visualization or something like that. And a physical is going to be more towards something that you do with your own body, like lighting a candle or saying some mantra. out loud. And there is a little bit of overlap there because like sometimes like chanting a mantra seems more metaphysical than physical, but you know, it is with your own body. So that's a thing, right? We want to do both. And so if you have energy without action, to me, like the energy without action is more kind of like the law of attraction without the magic, like just maybe just looking at the picture. And sometimes like that works. That's enough. That gets in your brain. And sometimes it's not. And then there's the action without the energy. So that's the person who has the spell book and does all these steps, but they didn't line up the energy first. And I'll be honest, like, you know, when I see the people with the spell book who are just like going through the steps, lighting the candle, doing this and this and that, and they don't line up the energy, that's obviously someone taking action without lining up the energy. Most of the time, like, I think when I was younger, I did that sometimes, especially as a teenager. I didn't really get it. But now in my older years, I have been for a while guilty of the opposite, right? Of lining up the energy, but thinking, well, if I line up the energy and I can visualize this, or, you know, I sit and meditate on it, or I have whatever and I feel it, then I don't have to take those physical steps. I don't have to light a candle. I don't have to have an altar. I don't have to say that chant out loud. I can just visualize it. And, you know, like, I think sometimes either one of those works, right? Sometimes somebody will go through these steps, these action steps of a spell and get results. Sometimes people will line up the energy and get results. But I really feel like the powerful part is when you do both. It does something. And as I've said in several recent podcasts, like for a long time, I resisted. I mean, I've had forms of altars for years. I just had a memory recently we were discussing with my daughters, and I actually before my youngest daughter was born, but when I was looking for a babysitter for my twins, who are now 15, and this was when they were like 6-7 months old. And my daughter who was 5 at the time, who's now going to be 20 soon, was showing her through the house and showing her the altars, and the babysitter ran. She didn't run. She just came back out and she was like, I don't feel comfortable with this job. And she left. If you are familiar with South Carolina, she was a Bob Jones graduate, and it's a very conservative Christian college. And yeah, she did not like my house. But at that time I had altars, and I sat at the altars and I meditated. I was not consistent about leaving offerings at altars. I wasn't really consistent about using them anything other than like a meditation space, which was still good, right? Because like if I sat down there, my body knew that it was time to get quiet and go within. Now my house is like filled with all kinds of altars for all kinds of purposes. And I've, since learned how it shifts my energy to take those actions and leave out water or put out incense or leave out foods on these different altars as offerings. And it's really interesting to me because like one feeds into the other, right? So if I do that action, it helps bring on that energy of connection, either connection with a deity or an ancestor, or even myself, even a part of myself that I want to work with. And that may seem weird, but I do have an altar to myself as well. And I'll put a link. Because I'm going to mention this book. I've mentioned it so much in the Premium Members Lab, and I'm not sure if I've mentioned it on here, but it's The 6 Ways. I think it's called The 6 Ways into Magic by Aidan Watcher. He makes these fabulous. I haven't bought one yet, but I look at them. They're like talismanic jewelry. So beautiful and also so potently powerful. And so he is taking and making the jewelry, doing the action of making it, but he's also lining up the energy and doing some of the other things that I'm going to tell you about in here. But that is like, this is the main thing, right? You want to have your energy lined up and your actions lined up and feeding into each other. So if you're doing one of the two, if you're just like energetically visualizing something and not taking any action, and like I talk about actions related to like lighting the candle and doing these things for spell work, but honestly, you also have to do the inspired action. And that's a term we use a lot in like law of attraction world, where like you sit down, you do this spell, right? And then you get an idea to like go somewhere or write a blog post or do, I'm thinking from my world, but like whatever pops into mind, right? To apply for a certain job or call a certain person, you have to take that action too, right? Because magic works through other people a lot. I think it works through ancestors. I think it works through deities. There's something special about being a human alive on this planet. It's crazy, it's messy, and I believe it's that we are in a really seated position of power because we do have a physical body. And I believe that there are beings that don't have physical bodies. And I don't know. I've heard they're all jealous of us. Sometimes that's hard to believe, right? But I do think that there are things that you can do when you are alive. So let's do them, right? Let's take those actions, and that goes back to the old story of like the guy praying to be saved. And like he's on top of this house where there's a flood and, there's a boat comes by. No, I'm praying to God to save me, and an airplane and whatever, like different things. And then he drowns. It's like, why didn't you save me? It's like, I sent you a boat and an airplane and a helicopter and all this stuff, and you just stayed. So don't necessarily expect your answer to come from outside of you, because a lot of times if you do a spell to like bring you prosperity, you're going to get an idea of an action to take that's going to bring it. If you do a spell to bring you love, you're going to get an idea for an action that's going to bring it. And I think I started to talk about the 6 ways with Aidan Watcher, and I went off on a tangent, but he does have like a ritual in there that I know I've done a Facebook Live on, and I've talked about a lot in different places, but it's just a very powerful, like calling back your own power. And I recommend anybody who hasn't done it to do that, like for at least a couple weeks. Just go buy that book, do that ritual. It's just super, super potent. And after you do the ritual, which has like physical and energetic components to the ritual, but also then you have to like follow up and do those inspired actions that bring your power back to yourself and use that power, because I did that for a while and I was just like pouring my power out. Here, let me just dump it out after I've called it back. And that is something that I say you don't want to do. Sometimes if you do it, you get to learn from it, right? Okay, so that's the main thing, right? Is having both elements of energy and action that are aligned, both together. I think to me, the thing that works the least is just going through the steps in a spell book and doing the steps with no energy, no enthusiasm, no lining it up behind it. But there are some other issues. So like if you're like, I am doing this, I am lining up my energy, I am taking the actions, and you're still not getting it. So here are a few things that you can also look at. If you have a lot of neediness, right? Like, I really need this to happen. That kind of repels it. It's that old resistance thing, or just, grasping too tightly, and then it's hard to get what you want when you do that. And the next one is watching the cauldron, right? A boiled pot, a watched pot never boils, something like that. When you do something, have faith that your work is going to manifest. What you've done, what you've asked for is going to manifest. And you're taking those actions. Those are so important. And then the third other issue is shadow desires. And I do have a class on this and a lot of stuff on the in the lab too. I believe we did a shadow alchemy course, but shadow desires, like if there's a part of yourself that wants to experience being poor or wants to experience not feeling loved, and like you're like, no, that's not me, but like think about it. Like sometimes, like how juicy good is it to be really, really angry at somebody? It's we wouldn't like think about it that way, but when you really stop and focus, like sometimes we just enjoy things that you wouldn't think you would enjoy, right? So there's a process to clearing that out, but just suffice to say, if you let your shadow enjoy everything that's happening that you don't like, and just assume if something's happening that you don't like, it's your shadow that is the one that's desiring that and calling that in, then that's a good way to kind of snap out of that. So there are a few more things that I want to bring up that you might also want to consider. I say start with energy and action and lining those up. But there are a few other things that we look at in the magical world. And so if you're doing everything else, these are some things that you probably want to add in over time. And one is magical timing, right? Every hour is ruled and every day is ruled by a planetary deity. There are, when you get into astrology, there are so many things happening that do affect the energy around us, right? So if you can line up what you're doing, if you are actually doing a ritual or actually doing a spell, to make it in a time that makes sense. So I'm not going to go too deeply into this. There are lots of probably books that talk about this. I'm trying to think. I do have like one thing that's called the Rulership book. And if I can find it, I'll put it also in the show notes. But it is a book that tells you like what is the rulership of just about every thing that you could think of and who it's under. So you might want to like, if, some are pretty obvious. Like if you're working on love, then that's probably like you might want to do it during the day and the hour of Venus. Or if you're working on prosperity, you might want to work on the day and or hour of Jupiter. And I think you can even, I know people get all the way even down to like minutes of things. So it's not something you have to do, but it's definitely something that happens. And I wish I could remember. I heard someone in a podcast recently talking about this, and I thought it was interesting. They had set a timer to listen, like to chime on their phone every time the planetary hour changed. And it's not like on the actual hour, but there is an app for that too. What is it? I think it's just called Hours, maybe. I know it's on the iPhone. I'm looking. I have it on mine. Yeah, it's just called Hours. And it will show you which planet rules which hour and when it switches. And there is definitely a different energy, and that's, wish I could remember. I think it might have been someone on, I think it was on Charm the Water, if I'm correct. But anyway, either that or maybe Glitch Bottle. I'll put a link to both of those. They're really good podcasts. But they talked about, just feeling the different energy of the different hours. And that's something that can kind of get you more attuned to the energy around you as well. So let me go back to my notes here. Yes. So ritual space is another one. So instead of just doing spell work, or even if you're doing manifesting work, if you have a space that you do that in, then, you're going to be able to tap into that energy and focus better. For me, usually I have a place out in my backyard where I do things when I want to do things outside that's kind of set up, and it has a fountain and it has a bench and just spaces. And then I have a room in my house that my daughters and I use for, we have all of our candles, all of our herbs, all of our incense and everything. We also have a pretty big ancestral altar in there. And so I do a lot of, if I'm going to focus on something like that, I'm going to go and do it in that room. So you can have a space. And if you're like I was for a long time, I mean, I did have the one altar, but most of the time I tried to keep that like out of main spaces. And if you don't like live in a place where you can have an altar or a ritual space, you can kind of create one for yourself. Like you can create a little box or something that might have like, so maybe an altar cloth with a picture on it that is meaningful to you, or like Venus sigils, or, whatever like feels right to you. And it might have some crystals or a candle holder, and you might keep your candle in there and your matches and whatever you want to do to just kind of set up a space. And I don't mean to get too deep into this, but, a lot of people like to have the 4 elements like earth, water, air, fire, right? Candle fire, a cup of water. Air can be a lot of times a wand, like especially if you've made one yourself from a tree branch, that's always nice. Or earth can be a crystal or a rock or actual earth, moss, flowers. But whatever feels good to you, just to help you create a space. And then you don't have to have it set up all the time. Or you can have it set up all the time, whatever works for you. But just a space that says, hey, I'm creating something. I'm creating change and doing magic in my world. And then one more thing to consider would be opening and closing a circle, or like calling in the 4 directions. So I'm going to leave that kind of broadly open and just say you can kind of Google that, but that's setting up that energy to do something magical. And it gives a beginning and an end to any ritual work that you do. So I do usually do that pretty much anytime I'm going to do any kind of rituals, or I'm going to sit, even when I'm going to sit and spend time with my ancestors and stuff. It's just kind of like saying hello and goodbye and having, we humans, we like a sequence to things. So that's kind of something that you can play with. So lots of things, but, as I said, the main thing is energy and action in alignment. So this is your experiment, should you choose to take it on. This week, step 1, create a spell. Nobody needs a spell book. You can create your own. I think I've talked a little bit about how in that one book, The Discovery of Witches, and how she does Gramarye and she makes up the rhyming spells. And I know I have some people that I've worked with, or some friends, and they've talked about how, they've created little songs or they've created little chants. And that's something that I've done too, just like not even really on purpose, but to focus. And so you can look at ones online, Hoodoo Rootwork Hour or Lucky Mojo. They have tons and tons, and some of them are really intense. So I suggest something simple. So either create one or find a simple one online or in a book. And I will put some links to some books and stuff in the show notes. And then second step, align the energy. Third step, do the physical steps to your spell or your manifestation practice. Fourth step, very important, forget about it, right? You did it. You don't, you can set the timer, but it's in the oven and it's baking. So let it bake. Don't keep poking, right? Think of it as a souffle. You open and shut the oven too many times, it's going to deflate on you. So then 5, check in later on results. So don't check in too soon. Just go about your life and just, if it pops up in your head, it's like, it's done. And then, note what you did somewhere. If you have a journal or if you have a book of shadows. What I tend to do is, because I use my own planner most of the time, sometimes I'm bad about tracking my habits, but I'm really working on that. But there's a section in every weekly thing. And if you want to check out the Moon and Magic Planner, if you go to Daily Alchemy, there's a big section midway down where you can click on it to go to the page and see what all these spreads look like. But in the weekly spread, there's a place for magical notes, recipes, and spells. So anytime I'm doing anything like that, I'm going to write it down in there and save it. I also do have what I consider to be my book of shadows, but I don't write everything that I do in there. But once I've done something and I liked the way it worked, I liked the results and stuff, then I will transfer it there. But I just kind of keep my day-to-day in my planner and then transfer anything interesting that I really want to keep or want to know where to find again and that I want to repeat or I might want to share with someone, then I usually transfer it to that. And it's just a really pretty blank book that I bought. It has a nice embossed cover. And but whatever you have, if you just write in a planner, if you just write in a $1 notebook that you got at the dollar store or whatever, or if you buy a fancy book to keep this kind of record in, don't be afraid to write it down. And don't be afraid to, don't think it has to be perfect if you buy a really pretty book. So if that will keep you from writing it down, then just get a plain notebook and keep it. Either way, it's perfect. Whatever works best for you. So those are the 5 steps for the experiment. And if you do this, I would love for you to check in and let me know. Also, if you would like to share any of your past successes or failures with me and let me know what kind of things that you do for your spell work, that would be amazing. You can obviously reach out to me at dailyalchemy.com. Like I said, at the bottom, there are links to email me or message me on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, all those good things. I'm not super consistent on checking messages in those places because I try to really focus on being present. That's a big thing for me right now, being present in my own life. And so social media I do, but I keep it to a minimum so that I'm living this life and not just watching what's going on my phone or my laptop, even though my phone and my laptop are what gets me connected to amazing people like you. So for that, I love it. But if you send me a message and I don't reply for a few days, please be patient. And probably the fastest thing to do is to send me email. Although I will say I only check it once a day too, because I keep it only on my laptop so that I'm not tempted to stalk my email so that I can be more present. And that, I think, is a special form of magic too, just being present in our lives and really, really, really fully in our bodies and really, really fully aware of what's going on around us and connecting with the people that we love. And okay, I'm going to share one really quick thing with you that totally doesn't relate, but popped up. And I believe I saw this on Instagram, believe it or not. Sometimes I see some things on there that really do benefit me in a positive way that aren't just time sucks. And so I think it was Layla Saad, and I'm not 100% sure if I'm saying her name right, but her last name is Saad. I'm really a fan of her work. She did the Me and White Supremacy workbook, and she has an actual book that just came out. I haven't bought it yet, but I'm definitely going to. And she talked about carrying a list with her of the people who were her priorities and noticing, as she's going through the day and she's living her life, is she giving priority to people who aren't on that priority list? And we have to, life is short, at least each go round, if you believe in reincarnation, but decide who you're going to spend your time on and who's important to you, and follow through with that action-wise, right? Line up the energy and the action. It's not a spell, but it's definitely a magical thing to do. And I know as I've really shifted lately into actually aligning my actions with what I'm thinking, especially with family members and people I love, that's another one of those special kinds of witchcraft, right? It makes life so much sweeter when we tune in and make the people who are truly our priority, Because we can say that they're our priority, but if we don't take the actions and put those relationships first, then they're not. That's just as simple as that. So yeah, my recommendation, definitely follow Layla Saad, read her books, do the work that she puts out in the world. It's very powerful. And I apologize. I do think she said that one of her mentors taught her about that list, and I don't remember who it was, but it was something that stuck with me to have that list and to check in on it from time to time, like every day, and make sure that I'm really giving priority to what I choose to give priority to. And that's the way I like to focus in my world. So I've gone on too long here. So I just want to close out very quickly by saying, let's follow our passions. Let's put our priorities in the right place. Let's be change-making descendants. Let's be future exalted ancestors. And let's live magically in the now. All right, big hugs and big magic to you all.